Everybody should use their time wisely. If you want to already log into the DSIP and check out the new topics that have already been released. It's a busy, busy day for small businesses if they want to do business with the Department of Defense.
All right, I think we'll kick it off. Definitely want to get everyone on their way to be able to check out the DSIP as Josh mentioned before it's too late. So why don't we get started and as people come in, they can I'm sure pick up where we are heading. So I want to thank everyone for joining. Um, it's obviously a crazy day if you're a small business in the DoD world, DOW world. So we definitely appreciate you guys all making it here and talking to us about SOCOM and just how to get integrated as a small business, as an agile operator in this very um, uh, busy and active world and one that is sometimes hard to understand and a bit of a black box. So we have Ashley here to help us kind of navigate that world. And I just want to give Ashley a proper intro. And then we're gonna hand things off to Josh to really give us the full landscape and then back to Ashley. So Ashley, if you're someone in the small business world looking to make an impact with SOCOM, Ashley is the person you need to know. Ashley is the director of SOCOM's Office of Small Business Programs, where she serves as the bridge between US SOCOM acquisition and the innovative small businesses that support the SOC mission. Ashley's perspective is unique because she's basically been on every angle of the small business acquisition process. She has vast experience managing multi-billion dollar portfolios during her tenure at SOF, AT&L, and the Army Corps of Engineers. For over a decade, her mission has been clear: identifying how federal government can better partner with small, agile firms to drive technological advancements to enhance the greater DoW mission. And so, Ashley, thank you so much for being here, and we really appreciate you joining us to share your insights and perspectives. So before we get into that, as I mentioned, Josh, who's one of our senior advisors, is just going to give us a little background into who Grant Engine is and what we're about, and then we'll take things from there.
Thanks, Zev. Okay, so I'm just introduce myself. Like Zev said, my name is Josh Barrow, and I'm a senior advisor at Grant Engine. Grant Engine is a grant consultancy. We're focused on helping companies that are developing life-changing tech, whether it's in the life science side or on the dual use side, to approach strategically relevant funding opportunities that can help propel their companies forward. What's really unique about the DoD and SOCOM, obviously, within that is the ability to not just to get an investment, which is fully dilution free, but also to potentially attract a potential customer. Because the impact here, the difference here, the defense funding is the reason the Department of Defense would be funding your technology is because they are potentially interested in seeing that technology delivered, which means you have a really large customer at the other side of it. So the conversations we're having today are strategic because we have on the one hand the agency and they have their emerging needs, and the other hand you have the dual use company. You have the groundbreaking technology, emerging solutions, and you have the SOCOM, which is constantly trying to plan two steps ahead so the United States can remain the superpower that it is in the defense landscape. And then on the other hand, if you only work with the larger, slower companies, you're not going to have the access to the agile, the breakthrough technology, which small businesses are offering. SOCOM has rapid deployment, you have rapid development. And that's where the alignment gets really interesting. But this conversation is very important for two reasons. One, you have to always be asking yourself the following questions, a moment of self-reflection. Is this the right opportunity for us? Because you're developing technology, and it could be that working with, let's say, SOCOM or with DARPA or the Air Force is something that could get you funding. But the question is, does it help you strategically move towards market? In other words, not every opportunity is the right opportunity. It could be a sideways step. But if it is a relevant opportunity, then it's a potential fantastic opportunity. In other words, not a fit for everybody, but if it is a fit for you, it's something you should really consider. And the question is, how do you stand out? And there are going to be a lot of companies probably applying for a lot of the opportunities you're going to be interested in. And on a macro level, the way you stand out in the case of SOCOM is to have conversations like this with Ashley Farrier and other stakeholders from the Department of Defense and understand how they view their strategic needs so that you can find out if you're answering them and how can you can align yourself with their language and with their view. And on the micro level, and this is everything that we focus on the dual use side, is we need to be understanding the end user all the way down to the end user in the field, because these are potential field solutions. They could be saving lives and they could be making an impact on the warfighter, whether it's on the logistics side, whether it's on the financial side, or whether it's in the field itself. And if you don't understand the end user, it's going to be very hard to stand out. So we want to do that as well as possible. Our process for winning the programs is starts at an early stage of understanding what your opportunity is and trying to create that alignment at the very beginning. But then it's also to try to get an understanding of the agency buy-in, which is building the relationships when it's possible, but it's also to establish alignment in agency buy-in when it's relevant, but more importantly, just to understand what they need so that we can tailor your proposal, your fantastic technology to the way they would view it. And then on the last side is the actual preparation of the proposal. If you want to be in touch with us, if you are considering potentially applying, especially now that the floodgates are open and the opportunities are rolling from the Department of Defense after a long wait for the last 6, 7 months, please feel comfortable to get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us on our website at grantengine.com or directly email me at josh@grantengine.com. And without further ado, I hand it back over to Ashley.
Great. Thank you so much, Josh. And thanks for Zev for setting this up and to the entire Grant Engine team for having me this afternoon. I really appreciate everyone that has joined us today, and I hope you at least get something out of today's conversation. I'm going to do some kind of general overview stuff of SOCOM, only because we are different than a lot of other agencies. If you've not participated in SOCOM acquisitions previously, or if you've not been around the special operations forces, like our acquisition pathways and things like that, I think it's important to understand kind of the overall aspect of the command as well. So, SOCOM is different than a lot of the other services and a lot of the other Department of War agencies because we have a kind of a multi-line of authority from Congress through our commander, our four-star commander, Admiral Bradley, that is at our headquarters at McDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida. And then we have some Unified Combatant Command responsibilities, some service-like responsibilities, and then where I fall and where our Special Operations Forces, Acquisition Technology and Logistics, center falls is down at the bottom here on this slide. The authority for the acquisition of special operations peculiar equipment and services. So what does special operations peculiar mean? It's usually something that is not service common. So we are typically buying innovative technologies. We do have a lot of service contracts as well, if any of you are service contract providers. And then we are also looking at things again, that are not service common. So if it's something coming from Big Army, we are typically going to them and they are purchasing on SOCOM's behalf. Our MFP $11 are very specific for special operations peculiar. Now, I do get companies once in a while that come to me and say, hey, Ashley, we think that this is special operations peculiar, and it may be, but it's not always considered soft relevant. And we will get to some of that in the later slides because it can be a distinction that companies sometimes have a hard time understanding. And we do try to assist with that as much as we can. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so just so you understand a little bit how SOCOM is made up, our headquarters, again, is at McDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida. That's where our commander sits. That's where SOF ATNL, most of our team, that's where we sit. My office, which I would love to say that I have a very large office, but I don't. It's myself and my deputy for the entire command, but we are located here at McDill. I sit at McDill every day. My deputy Paul sits out at Softworks. So if you've been out at Softworks, you may have run into and spoken to Paul. But this chart shows the Theater Special Operations Command commands that are set up, of course, by the theater. So right now there's a lot going on at the SOCOM AOR under the central command. And then the right side of this chart shows our component commands. So those are the Army Special Operations, Naval Special Warfare. You will see on here there's a Space Force Special Operations Command. I won't lie to you, this slide was from last year's soft week. So I imagine this year's soft week will have some additional news to share about that. But you will have to either visit Soft Week or we can share some information with you after. That will be coming up in May, the 18th through the 21st, if you guys are interested. Next slide, please. So SOF ATNL, what our main goal is to be trusted experts in the acquisition community. So we want our special operators to trust the acquisition process, and trust that we are making decisions that are good for them and on their behalf and in behalf of their well-being. So we work very closely with the end users within the command, with other agencies, and a lot of small companies that I talk to are like, "Hey, Ashley, what authorities do you guys have, or what waivers to regulations does SOCOM have in order to make uh, your acquisition process be more agile, move quicker, things like that?" And I won't lie to you, SOCOM has the exact same acquisition authorities that all other agencies do. We follow the exact same federal acquisition regulations, and then, of course, the department supplement to those. And the reason that we can move a little faster is we are a lot smaller. We are nowhere the size of like the big army. SOCOM in general is less than 2% of the Department of War's budget every year. So we are not buying the next aircraft carrier. We're usually buying smaller quantities in very specific platforms or systems or services. And so um, our acquisition process can be quicker. It also helps that almost all of our acquisition leadership sit here in the same building at McDill. And so if we need something approved by Ms. Johnson, our acquisition executive, she sits down the hallway and we can go talk to her at any time. So that does also help. We're not typically, unless the dollar threshold gets pretty high, we're not typically going back to the Pentagon for additional requests and approvals and things like that. Next slide, please. Okay, so just so you can see a little bit of what is in our current portfolio, this is not all inclusive, so please don't take it that way. These are the large programs of record in kind of each of these buckets. You'll see on the right side, those are multi-domain, meaning that they usually fit across multiple program executive offices. So you may have things in soft digital applications that are software related, but they are going on our tactical radios or in our tactical kits in our tactical information systems program executive office. But SOCOM is any place. We are seabed to space right now. So although we're not, unfortunately, we did not have anything to go to do with the Artemis going around the moon recently, but we are putting things on satellites for added communication for our special operations forces, things like that. So we have gotten into space a little bit with some equipment, but we are definitely not trying to take over the place of NASA or any of the other space efforts going on. But you'll see down at the bottom our science and technology capability areas. Our huge one, the S&T focuses on quite a bit, is the human weapon system. So one of the soft truths is that humans are more important than hardware. So we are always going to try to keep our operators healthy, make them increase their cognitive abilities on the battlefield, and just overall make sure that we are taking care of them, not only to keep them in like peak operating condition, but then also if something happens, we are able to rehabilitate them, get them back into the fight, and keep them going. Because our forces look a little bit different than the conventional Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, because they're usually, a little bit older, a little more experienced. They have a lot of very specialized training that goes through these things. So we want to make sure that we're always taking care of them. The other science and technology capability areas you will see, I'm sorry, I'm trying to kind of screen the questions too. I did see something pop up about the BAA, which is a great segue. The Science and Technology Directorate does maintain an open BAA out on sam.gov. It's rolling all the time. So you can find it on sam.gov. If for some reason you can't, you can email me and I can get you the link to it. All my contact information is at in the very last slide here. So you definitely can get a hold of us. But that BAA again has rolling evaluations. I do think that they were working on evaluations in the February March timeframe. So I'm not sure when the next evaluation period is. However, all of that is posted to SAM. The BAA, of course, is for awards and things that are going to be funded with R&D money. So if you are outside the R&D realm, please note the BAA is not where you should be. But if you have specific questions on where and you're unsure of where you should be, again, that's what my office is for, to make sure that that is that you can find answers. Next slide.
Ashley, do you mind if I just stick on that for one more second? Can you define
Absolutely.
exactly what R&D is so that people can understand whether they fit into that bubble or not? Because I think that's an important distinction for a lot of the people that we speak to.
Yeah, so for R&D funds, I won't lie, it can get a little bit gray. Some of it is going to be based on your TRL level and where you're at. So if you are at the idea stage and you're submitting a white paper to the BAA and you don't have an active prototype yet, but you are looking to continue your research into the feasibility of the technology that you're looking into, that can be included in R&D. Getting up to the prototype, or even once you have a prototype, making modifications to that in order to have a new use case, because SOCOM is a lot of times in that kind of new use case area. So it can really mean a lot of things, but most of it is, obviously prior to commercialization and having commercial products. But if you have a commercial product that you are recommending a modification for, that you are researching to develop that modification to become a SOCOM, or a special operations peculiar good, that can be also considered R&D. So it can get into a gray area. But I would definitely, for the BAA, we're usually looking for like ideas up to prototypes.
Perfect. Perfect. I think that adds a lot of very helpful clarifications. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. So, outside of the BAA, there are other entry points into the command. And the one that I want to highlight to you all is Engage Soft on Vulkan. So you can find Vulkan at vulkan-soft.com. It is a unclassified, public-facing website. Anyone can register for it. Now, if you're trying to use a Gmail email address, I will tell you you'll run into issues and have to contact their help desk. But if you have a company email address, that should go through no issue. But Vulcan is a SOCOM owned and operated system that is for tech scouting and for market research purposes. So Vulcan as a whole, you're creating what we call a scout card, which is basically your company's profile. You can include, any information about your technology or your capability. You can, it's Vulcan, VULCAN dash soft.com. If someone could put that in the chat for her, that'd be great. And so on that Vulcan system, you're going to find when you register, you're only going to be able to see what your company has on there. You're not going to be able to see any other proprietary information or any other technology development of any other companies. Now, myself, since I have a .mil email address, I can go out there and use Vulcan for market research purposes. So, um, let's say drones, because drones are a huge thing across the entire department right now. If I go out to Vulcan and keyword search drones, any companies that have drone technology will come up. I can look through, see if there are any that kind of stick out to me that I'd like to have further conversations with. If you've participated with SOCOM in a technical experimentation event, if you've been to any of the rapid capability assessments, if you've been to any of these events that you're getting feedback either from subject matter experts or the Science and Technology Directorate, all of that stuff, all of those assessment reports are also going to become part of your Vulcan. So when I, as a government employee, go out to look, I can see, oh yeah, Science and Technology evaluated this capability and they said this is great. They just didn't have money to fund it this time, or however, that conversation went. So it can be very helpful in your conversations with other agencies because it's not just SOCOM anymore. So Vulcan, again, is available to any federal employee with a .mil or a .gov email address. So there's over 900 federal agencies that now utilize Vulcan for market research and tech scouting purposes. So it is a huge or it gives you a very, very broad audience across the department. So we definitely recommend utilizing Vulcan. And then Engage Soft is actually what we have termed a call on Vulcan. So you'll see Engage Soft, the 2026 call. If any of you guys have done it before, like the past month or the past 3 weeks, it was shut down for a while. They were backlogged based on the government shutdown in October. And we were still trying to dig out of that. But the 2026 call is now open again. So if you missed it before, please make sure you go out and check Vulcan again. It is out there. And Engage Soft is the command's way of taking in unsolicited proposals. So if you don't see your technology as a cyber topic, a BAA topic, or you're in between topics. Engage Soft is a way to submit that capability into the command, and you are guaranteed feedback. So the discovery piece of it, again, is through Vulcan as the digital front door, as we like to call it. And once you submit your scout card into Engage Soft, there's a couple different things that are going to happen. So, first off, we're going to do a soft relevancy review. Now, you're going to provide all this information as to why you think it, fits within special operations. Then we're going to do our own assessment of that because right off the bat, if it's not something that SOCOM is considering special operations peculiar, there is kind of no home for that technology within the command. So we want to tell you that early. If there is no future funding that's going to be available based on whatever technology you're bringing to us, we want to make sure that we let you know, and hopefully also can help direct you to what other agencies um, may want the technology that you try to submit to us. So that soft relevancy is going to be the first thing. Now, if you are determined to be soft relevant, then it'll go through some additional technical evaluation by subject matter experts within the command. And those are across all different offices. It's not like there's one Engage Soft office that's just reviewing everything. It's going to actual program managers for them to look at their portfolio, look at the technology you're offering, see if there's space for it, if it, are we already working on something that is similar? Any of that stuff, we will let you know in that feedback. So I think it is important if you've never interacted with the command before, it is an important feedback or is an important way to gain that initial feedback from the command just to make sure that you're not wasting time and resources because we are very, very, very understanding that small companies, specifically startups and non-traditional companies that we work with a lot, don't have the resources to expend on something that we know upfront is not going to end in contract or money coming from the department. So we want to be helpful and we want to be mindful of that for you all. So if you ever have questions, again, please feel free to reach out. But I would highly encourage if you've not registered in Vulcan to get registered, to create a scout card if you've not done through Engage Soft before. I think it's a great first step for companies. I would recommend when you do create your scout card, if you have been awarded cyber contracts before, if you have past performance in the department through other agencies, add all of that information to your scout card because I do think it is helpful to show program managers and subject matter experts that are doing these reviews, kind of where you have been assessed at other places, or if you have a previous cyber award, it shows them an easy button to get back to you contractually. So I would make sure you get or you include all of that information in your scout card. Next slide, please. I do see a question in the chat. We've submitted to a couple of calls. Should we still submit to ESOF? Yes. If you submitted to calls that were for technical experimentation events or they were specific um, topic areas, the Joint Special Operations Command uses Vulcan quite a bit, and they have kind of open calls all year long. Those are all separate from Engage Soft. So if you haven't gone through Engage Soft, I would still, if you're still looking for that additional feedback, I would definitely submit through there, even if you've applied to some of those other calls previously. Okay. And then I really want to highlight here too, SoftWorks. So we have a partnership intermediary agreement with DefenseWorks, which which created SoftWorks. And SoftWorks is, well, if you're around the department at all, there's AFWorks and LandWorks, there's IC Works now, there's works for everything. SoftWorks just happens to be this Special Operations Force's specific works office. So SoftWorks is also located here in Tampa, Florida. Like I mentioned, my deputy Paul sits out there on a regular basis to take office hours. We host events out there. Hopefully, some of you were able to make it to our small business boot camp in March. We had a 3-day event that was great with like 260 small businesses there to discuss different topics. It was great. But SOCOM or SoftWorks is what I like to call our innovation hub. So they are not only doing assessment events and capabilities demonstrations. They're doing all kinds of things out there. They do prototyping and experimentation with S&T and the program offices. They host different events where they bring in industry and academia and government experts to discuss specific topics and just find out what technology is out there. They also participate or help us with our Small Business Innovative Research Program. SOCOM in 2000, oh goodness, I don't remember what year it was now, but we got a pilot from Congress that SoftWorks can issue business to business contracts under our SIBR program, up to 10% of our SIBR dollars, um, as business to business agreements on SOCOM's behalf, which has greatly increased the number of proposals we've received and has greatly decreased the time to get on contract. So, SoftWorks, because it's business to business agreements, it gets out of some of the government bureaucracy that we have to deal with at the headquarters and that our contracting officers have to deal with to get those SIBRs awarded. And so that has been a great program. They still call it a pilot, although it's been around for years now. So I'm not sure when we'll drop the pilot part of it. But that is a very important part of our SIBR program. But if you have not ever visited SoftWorks or if you've not heard of SoftWorks, please make sure you join their ecosystem at softworks.org. They will send you emails. Now, they're not like spamming you all the time, but as events come up, they want to make sure that there's maximum participation and that the maximum number of companies know that we are hosting these things so that we're finding the best technology, even if it's new startups that maybe have not worked with the department before. So please make sure you join their ecosystem so that you can get regular updates from them. They are great. Leslie Babbage is the SoftWorks director. She's great. I was just actually out there yesterday. They were hosting an event for our Soft Ventures, which is a private capital thing that the command is doing with Lieutenant Colonel Nick Lopez leading the charge there. So there's just a lot of things always happening at SoftWorks, and I highly recommend if you have not checked it out to check out their website. Next slide.
Ashley, before we continue, can I ask you quickly
Sure.
to sort of give us a little bit about what makes SoftWorks different than all the other works? You know, if you had to sort of say what makes SoftWorks stand out, is there something that comes to mind as like the differentiator?
I think SoftWorks, now I will say that I am definitely biased. And I have not visited all of the other works, so I am not giving them their own fair chance right now. But SoftWorks, one, is because they include the end users and the units. So not only are the program executive offices, so the acquisition trained folks, able to leverage SoftWorks, but we've had units come in that say, hey, I need something built. And SoftWorks has a foundry. So they have engineers out there. So an end user can come in and say, hey, we need this and we cannot find it anywhere to buy. And SoftWorks can help them figure it out. So I think their connection to our operators and our end users, I think, is a little bit different than some of the other works offices. And also, I think that is how it maintains a lot of momentum out there. When the operators are on board, that's what we're focused on. And making them happy is making everyone happy because we're getting our jobs done. So I do think that that is a little bit different at SoftWorks than at some of the other works locations.
Okay, thanks for that. Don't worry, your secret is safe with us. We're not gonna tell anyone that you know you guys are definitely better. But anyway, continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that was perfect. This is really my last slide. I just wanted to make sure everyone on this call has contact information for who to reach out to if you have questions. Again, that is me. And my information is very much public information. That's my email address. That's actually my phone number too. And anytime you guys have something, or even if it's not you, maybe you decide SOCOM is not the place for you. If you talk to other companies and they have questions, please feel free to pass along our contact information, this slide if you want to. I I am very focused. Again, it's my only myself and my deputy for the entire command. but we are very focused on making sure that no one is suffering in silence, that if there is something that you cannot figure out or you are not sure where to go or where to submit, or if you're having issues submitting, that you always have a friendly face to call upon. And that is myself and Paul. That's what we're here for. So please, if you ever have concerns about the process, you think you're not receiving the feedback that is deserved, we're happy to help with that. If you do get on contract, we are also the payment issue people. I just have been dealing with a payment issue for one of our smalls today with Naval Special Warfare. So we are also that. If you have a complaint about our acquisition processes, we also are the complaint department. We're a little bit of everything to everyone. So please don't ever feel like you can't reach out. We do stay busy, but we're used to it. So just a constant state of chaos is great for us, where we thrive on that. Engage Soft, Kimberly Carberry, that is listed here, is the program manager for both Engage Soft and Vulcan. So if you run into any issues, you can reach them at esoft@socom.mil, or you can reach out to Kimberly directly. Um, Not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but if you ever reach out to any of these people and they're not getting back to you, we are also enforcing their responses to you, because we get that a lot as well. Not Kimberly specifically, but to some of the offices that go to the office mailboxes. If you email someone in the command and you're not getting a response, and it's something other than a cold call, that you're trying to share a capability with a program executive officer, I won't lie, you're probably not going to get a response from that. When we have these dedicated resources for submitting your technologies into the command. But any other time that you are, trying to follow up with someone or things like that, and you're not getting a response, we can also help. But our technical experimentation events, is one thing I kind of mentioned when I talked about Vulcan, but you can find all the information at the website that's listed here. There's actually one happening in Avon Park, Florida this week right now on agentic AI, I think is what Howard, the acting director of S&T, told me. So keep an eye out on those. Those are a great way to get in front of end users and program managers to actually test out your capability, at a government location and demonstrate what you guys are able to do. So keep an eye. They usually host about 3 of those a year. And it's different topics. Last year, I think they did maritime, something maritime, um, a UAS, and something else that I can't remember. But this year, I'm pretty sure this week is agentic AI, but I don't know what the other two topics are. But they're listed out on that website. But with that, I'm happy to answer whatever questions I can. If I missed any of your questions coming up in the chat, I'm sorry. I also know that I talk pretty fast. I tried to work on that, but I went through everything pretty fast. If you have follow-up questions, or if you'd like to talk to me one-on-one, just shoot me an email.
Perfect. Ashley, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I know we do have some follow-up questions. I have a long list of questions we got from some of our clients as well that I'd love to ask. But before I do that, I know Josh wanted to run a couple questions to the audience, so I'm gonna let Josh take care of that, and then we'll go to this.
Yeah, so we're gonna start with the first question, and then we'll do the other two later on. So it's just a poll question. Dan Garcia who's going to put up a question for us in the slides, and I'll get it up also here. So the question is, how familiar are you with SOCOM and how it actually works with small businesses? Give it a second for everybody to log your questions pretty quickly. As we're seeing right now, actually, this is a good reach, because most people are not very familiar or somewhat familiar or not familiar at all. It seems like the largest amount of it. So that's fantastic. Dan, if you could actually, let's run through them real quickly, because we can do these questions quickly. My mistake, I said differently before. What's the second question? Let's see if we get it up. Second question, do you feel your current pitch would land with SOCOM? Just thinking about where you're at right now, and that could be in any of the different vehicles that we talked about, whether it's directly with SoftWorks or through Vulcan or through an SBIR program. Okay, it's pretty cool. Also, actually, we see we might have some relevance. Either people that need to encourage themselves and build their confidence, or some companies here that seem that has a really good fit here as well. All right, and let's go to the third question. Last question is, would you like Grand Engine to reach out to you with more information? I'll give you a chance to answer that question. In the meantime, Zev, you can queue up the question for Ashley.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Josh. So, firstly, we encourage people to start asking questions in the chat if anyone has anything to ask Ashley, and we will definitely bring that to the forefront. But in the meantime, we asked some of our clients to list out some of the questions that were important to them. So I have a few questions just want to throw in front of you and get your take. I think you touched on this a little bit throughout, well, quite substantially throughout the slides, but I think just to narrow in on a key point here, a lot of our clients want to know what the difference is between big Navy, big Army, and SOCOM. But I think what will also be important to understand is what is the how do you know if you're better a better fit for SOCOM or you're a better fit for some of those larger agencies? How should companies go about distinguishing that and understanding where they fit for SOCOM?
I would love to say that there is like one specific answer that I could give for this. Like, here is a roadmap. This will tell you where to go. And I'm just not sure that that's out there, because there are certain capabilities or technologies that are being submitted under other cyber programs or, through TechX with the Army or things like that, that are also SOCOM potentially SOCOM related or something that we would like to look into for different use cases than maybe what the Army would be using that technology or capability for. So it is a very, and I know I've said this on a bunch of different things today, but it is a very gray area on where you could end up. Now, if you are offering commercial parts or manufacturing or things like that, that's really usually out of SOCOM's wheelhouse because we are purchasing things as a system, and therefore the OEM is responsible for, maintaining parts and things like that. So if you are doing, which I know most of your folks are in the technology or the innovation space, but for parts manufacturing or things like that, that's usually Defense Logistics Agency because every defense agency uses them for that type of thing. If it's medical stuff, it could be SOCOM, it could be Army MedCom, it could be Defense Health Agency, it could be all three. So there is some synergy across the agencies within the department on what science and technology efforts are happening. Howard Strahan, the current acting director for SOCOM S&T, was actually speaking yesterday at the private capital event that was happening at SoftWorks. And they are working to strengthen those relationships so that when they see something, even if it's not SOCOM specific, but it's something cool that they think the department would really be interested in, that they can pass you off to another agency where you would fit. And all of the departments are trying to get better at that across the board. I will mention I can't speak to the efficacy of it, but the Department of War Office of Small Business Programs did just recently start a website or a database program called Lynx, Lynx. And that system itself, the idea behind it is that you would upload all of your company's information, all of your um, white papers and technology information and past performance, and all of that stuff. And it would kind of spit out for you what agencies it thinks that you align with. Now, again, that is a brand new system, and I still have not been able to get registered, even as a government employee. So if you're frustrated, me too. But that system is also supposed to help our smalls with finding and figuring out their alignment because it can be difficult if you have specific questions on if you If you are unsure, if you are soft relevant, which it looked like based on the poll, there are several of you that are unsure, please feel free to reach out to my office. We'd be happy to sit down and go through exactly what you're offering. And then if it is something that we think the command would be interested in, we can make sure that you are getting into those entry points, engage soft on Vulcan. If you would like an idea of the overall interest of SOCOM, look at the BAA topics, look at the SIBR topics, engage soft. There are capability areas of interest listed there. And all of those things are going to give you small clues as to what the command, I mean, not small clues, general clues as to what the command is interested in investing in. So I would make sure you're taking a look at those. And then also, when you are presenting something to the command, if you get into these rapid capabilities assessments, if you get into these technical experimentation events, if you are coming to Soft Week, if you are planning to present to program managers there and pitch to them what your technology is, I think aligning what you're doing with those areas can also help get you to the correct people. Because when you submit through Engage Soft, if you are in, you know, I don't even know. There's a lot of capability areas of interest on there. If you're biomedical, let's just say that there's several different things, there's several topics or capability areas of interest. But if you align yourself and say, hey, SOCOM, on your website, you said you wanted this. This is how I meet what you said you're looking for. I won't lie to you. All of this stuff is still evaluated and reviewed by humans. So if you make it easier for them, it will help you in the long run. So aligning yourself and showing where you fit into those topics, I think is an important thing to do. And I think it helps companies get through some of these hurdles a little bit easier when there is some initial alignment. And I won't lie, it is more attractive when I talk to a company that has done their research than a company that comes to me and is like, hey, I actually want to talk to you. And they don't even know what SOCOM is like stands for. So I would make sure that you are doing your research or talking to other companies that have been through these things before, been through these processes. We'll have a huge networking event in the fall for specifically for small businesses at Softworks, and we would love for you guys all to join us. The program managers will have different program managers there, different agencies, different prime contractors. But there's a lot of information out there. I won't lie, it's not easy to find and sometimes not easy to navigate, but that's what our office is here for to help.
That was perfect. Firstly, it's nice to know that humans are still doing the evaluations for sure.
Yes, it's not turned to AI yet. So the easier you can make it on the humans doing it, I think it helps.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also just to double click quickly on SoftWorks, you mentioned it. I'm sure some people would like to know what that is and whether they should be attending that. So can I just ask you to quickly touch on that for a moment?
Sure. So we host an annual networking event at Softworks. It'll probably be in the November timeframe. This past one that we had was November. It was actually the very first day I was back at work post shutdown. So it was a very aggressive first day back after the shutdown this year. But it's usually the November timeframe. We're bringing in other agencies. We're bringing in the other works offices. We're bringing in program managers and program executive officers and all kinds of things for companies to have speed dating with. So all of our agencies and our government folks will sit at tables and the contractors get short meetings with them all day long. It's an exciting event. It's a very loud event, but it is very exciting. So we do that annually. We just hosted our small business boot camp back in March. If you have not attended SOCOM events before, and you still haven't by next spring when it comes back around, because that's an annual event, that is a great one, especially if you have not done a lot of work in the department. This is not varsity level topics. This is pretty junior level topics, cybersecurity and CMMC, facility clearances, which a lot of people don't know about and is very important to our command. proprietary information and the legality of data rights and things like that. So kind of junior level topics, but topics that we think are very, very important to the small companies that we talk to. If you didn't make it to the boot camp this year, but you'd like any of the information, I'm happy to share that with you. We do have the slides and things like that. Um, if you do not, I should have mentioned this earlier. I know I mentioned my deputy, Paul Ward. If you do not currently get emails from Paul, we also maintain a database in our office so that Paul can send out, I'm not going to say we because Paul always does it, but so Paul can send out our announcements on upcoming events. We host typically two small business events per month. Those are usually virtual. So we host small business roundtables featuring our program executive offices. We actually have one on Friday. If you're not registered, we can still get you registered for PEO soft digital applications. It's 100% virtual, there's no charge. And then if you are coming to Soft Week, we are hosting the first week of May. It'll be whatever that Wednesday is that I can't remember the date. Um, we are going to be going through or hosting a roundtable about how to get the most out of Soft Week. So we'll go through the agenda, where you can find us, what the PEOs do, so you know who to talk to when you're there, all of those things. But if you would like to get on our mailing list, and again, we won't spam you, but we will send out information we think is important. You can just email osbp@socom.mil, or you can email me directly. All we need is your cage code and your contact information. We can get you registered. And then you'll always get updates from us as well. But you can find all this events and registration. I just saw someone post that in the chat. It's posted everywhere. If you're on LinkedIn, stay pretty active on LinkedIn and post everything there. I am usually resharing what's on Softworks website. Softworks also posts our event. Our events are also posted on sam.gov. We want maximum participation, so we try to post them wherever we can. So
Okay, okay, that's great to know. And we'll be resharing some of this information as well. So if you don't catch it in the chat or in the discussion, we'll definitely be sharing those links. But quickly, I know that we're kind of coming down to time here, but on that topic, one of the questions was how important is it to have those face-to-face conversations prior to applying or in the process of applying? Would you say that how critical is it to speak to the SOCOM operators before submitting the applications that you're hoping to get funded?
I can't say that it's critically important. I do think it does help companies in some aspects. However, I say that also trying to, as a little bit of self-preservation for the program managers. I get companies that come to me all the time, like, "Hey, Ashley, can you send me the POC for X, Y, or Z?" No, I can't. Our office doesn't give out contact information for any USSOCOM personnel. So the reason I want to say, like, it can be helpful if you've had some of those conversations to help shape your submission. However, if you've not had those conversations, I would not let that deter you. From submitting through any of the things that we've talked about today. Because to be quite honest, there's just a lot more of you than there are of our acquisition people and our end users that are available to chat with companies. So not every company is going to have that sit down conversation. They're not going to find the correct person at Soft Week. They're, not going to get through a friend of a friend found someone and they gave me, if someone else gives you an email address, by all means, feel free to use it. I'm just not allowed to give it to you. But so while I do think it can be helpful, um, I won't say that it's absolutely necessary because there's just a lot of companies that don't get that opportunity, but have great technology that the command still needs to see. Even if you don't have a government champion in your corner yet, that's not to say that you're not going to get one once you've submitted.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely helpful. And yeah, we saw a couple questions asking for POC information, so I won't even bother asking that. But I will turn our attention to the chat quickly, just so that we have a chance to answer some of the questions here. Someone asked if there's any way of accessing example applications as a way of understanding the way SOCOM prefers to be uh, communicated to.
I don't think that there are currently any templates out there. I would have to check with Kimberly. I know she used to have a quad chart thing that she shared with companies for engaged soft purposes, but I don't know if that's posted anywhere. I can't think of anywhere on our website. If it's not and she has it, I'll ask that that be uploaded to the website. But in the meantime, if you are looking for that, just shoot me an email and I'll see what I can track down for you. But I cannot remember if it's posted someplace or not.
Okay, okay, that's helpful. Yeah. And then also someone asked, with the Army Futures Command disbanding, is it hard to keep up with DoD's advanced funding mechanisms and the many other works entities?
Well, the department as a whole is hard to keep up with funding regardless.
Yeah.
But there are so many changes that happen every day. It's just unfortunately the nature of the beast. And that's why we are constantly on our toes and making changes to what our processes look like. And that's why I mentioned Howard's team trying to expand his reach in those other agencies so that if something comes to us, and let's say we're very interested, because we have a futures office as well. If we're very interested in whatever it may be, the next teleporter, let's say we can we want to be able to teleport someone. Now, if there's another federal agency that's already researching that, we want to build off of what they've already done to not duplicate the resources that it costs to get to a final answer. So, again, some of those things are just relationship building. I do think the department as a whole is getting better at it. It's not perfect. I'm not going to say it's perfect, and I don't think it'll ever be perfect, but they are trying to, as you know, budgets are cut and budgets are going towards other efforts. They are trying to lessen that duplication of effort, across all of the agencies.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. I hope that answers whoever's question that was. And I got one in private DM that I think is worth addressing here. It's an interesting question. How are today's defense challenges changing the focus of SOCOM? So obviously, with everything going on in the military landscape, how is SOCOM sort of how is the small business office sort of addressing some of those challenges?
So, some of the challenges really that SOCOM faces are at more of a command level. And it's because our mission set and the tasks that are required of our command has really changed. We were kind of the face of a lot of prior conflict because SOCOM was very heavily involved in a lot of different things. Where now we're acting more as a supporting role to some of the other departments or to the other services. So just the general landscape of SOCOM's mission has evolved, and our mission set of um, all kinds of things, hostage rescue and disaster, reaction and all just different kinds of things. And with the global landscape changing constantly, SOCOM is changing and evolving to make sure that we're keeping up with that and staying ahead of where other countries, missions may lie as well. So I think it as a whole, our acquisition processes, our capability areas of interest that are for, the BAA and Engage Soft, all of that has evolved as SOCOM's mission set has evolved. And that's something that happens all the time. Those capability areas of interest are usually updated like every 3 to 6 months, depending on if something is an urgent requirement that we really want to get after. And that's just unfortunately the changing landscape of just the global economy, global technology, and what's happening in other countries, and our overall, what's going on around the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. That's, I think, important insight for everyone to understand. And on that note, I'm gonna let everyone go because we're thank you so much for joining us. This was so insightful and so impactful, and I know that this is gonna really help everyone here. engage with SOCOM and hopefully serve the SOCOM mission more effectively. So I just want to thank you again, and we'll definitely be sharing your message and all the helpful information more broadly, so everyone can be better informed.
Great. Thank you again for having me. And again, if anyone needs anything or has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Ashley.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.